Some of you may know that I've been playing guitar for quite a while. Been playing for about 13 years. And over those 13 years, I've acquired a handful of guitars. Some of them have come and go, but most of those I've acquired I still have to this day. And I thought on this day I would show you the guitars that are currently in my collection. I don't have too many, but I have more than a couple. A couple electrics, a few acoustics, some other interesting ones. There's only 2 guitars that I play on a regular basis. And the rest I almost never play. And I thought I'd show those to you today here on this weighted blanket here. I feel like the sound of the sand inside the weighted blanket shuffling around. So we'll grab our first guitar here. I'm gonna lay out this to put the headstock on. So our first guitar, this is a G&L ASAT Classic Blues Boy. It's a Telecaster, but it has a thick neck and headstock more similar to a Fender Strat. It has the humbucker pickup along with the Tele pickup here. This is my most recently acquired guitar, and right now it's the one that I play the most. This guitar was a Christmas/birthday gift from my dad. My birthday is in January, so Christmas and birthday gifts are sometimes intertwined into something a little larger and nicer, like this guitar. I got this guitar at a guitar shop in my hometown in Great Falls, Montana. There was really only 2 music shops in my hometown. It's a relatively small town in Montana. And I used to take guitar lessons at both of them at one point or another. One of the owners and guys who taught lessons, mostly bass lessons, at this shop, Guitars of Montana, was a guy named John. And I acquired this guitar from John days before I left Montana to head to Chicago. And within a couple days of me returning to Chicago, John, the guy who sold me the guitar, unfortunately passed away in a house fire. Pretty dark and interesting that this G&L ASAT Classic Blues Boy guitar was one of the last guitars that he had ever sold. It might have been the last guitar that he ever sold. And I would guess I'll never know. So in a way, it's a cursed guitar. This guitar I got mainly because I'm looking for a new, more sparkly, high-end sound that also has some weight and has a neck that is more balanced with its intonation, so I can play more in tune easily. This Telecaster came with a pickup switch on the bottom of the body, which wasn't preferred. I usually like the switch up here, so it's easier for me to reach instead of reach down. I get to reach towards me. But it sounds very good. It sounds cleaner than the guitar that I was using primarily before this one. I have a friend in Chicago who I inquired about doing a custom paint job for this Telecaster. And I had a cool idea of a black body with a white crescent shape going across the body and across the headstock. But of course I made that inquiry when I was at a point in my life with good financial standing, so I was able to be a little bit more reckless about what I spent money on, because I didn't really buy this for the look of it. I just bought it for the sound of it and the feel of it, and it ended up just being powder blue, kind of a baby blue, maybe a little bit on the gray side, but if I could change the color of it, I certainly would. Yeah, not quite a Fender or Squier. It honestly sounds a little bolder than Fender instruments, really. Alright, let's move on to another guitar. So, if I'm not playing the Telecaster these days, the guitar that I would be playing would be this one right here. This is a DBZ, Islinsky. He's a somewhat of a private developer, but has his own brand, well known. I don't know the specific names for this model, because a lot of them are kind of custom, but also like manufactured to be the way they are. This guitar I've had for a good while. I believe this is my second ever electric guitar. My first electric guitar I no longer have, but it now belongs to a good friend of mine who doesn't live far, so I can see it whenever I want. But this guitar, when I got this one, I played way more than the old first electric. And it sounded better. It didn't sound cheap like the first one. And it had a very unique feel to it. There's a groove cut into the piece. This whole guitar is actually like one bass here. If you look on the back, it's still the main structure. And the neck, if you can tell, it has somewhat of a trapezoid type feel, as opposed to most guitars with more of a circular or triangular feel. Has this nice little metallic emblem. The skull looks very much like a Hell's Angels motorcycle gang type emblem. Has the toggle switch up here in the position that I'm used to. Nice little emblem here on the headstock as well. I just like the look of this guitar. It's very slick, and it has a very metallic sound, almost like digital sounding. So it's great for just nice sheen, clean high end, but not a very good guitar for modeling after acoustics or really analog sounding guitars. Double pickups here. I remember playing this guitar a lot in high school when I first got it, and I played this at my freshman year talent show, and I played it at my senior year talent show, if I'm not mistaken. But I got a lot of use, but once I moved to Chicago, I didn't bring this guitar with me, so I ended up not playing it for years and years until I reacquired it last Christmas when I drove to my parents' house and picked it up. But now that I've got it back, I've come to find that it actually sounds and feels pretty good to play, so I've been playing it a lot more. It's pretty light too. It almost feels more like a plastic, like fake wood, but it definitely is made with wood. Now this next guitar, it may look like the last guitar, the DBZ, but it's a very different guitar. Sounds and feels very different. And it is one of my most prized possessions. Probably one of my most valuable possessions. This is a Gibson Les Paul 1983 Black Beauty Custom with triple humbuckers. It has all original hardware, including the original Bigsby. It even has a letter of authenticity. The wood that they make these old 80s Les Pauls with, they don't use to make guitars anymore. So it's one of a kind, but it's also very heavy. When I moved to Chicago, I moved immediately after high school. And as a high school graduation present, my dad bought me this guitar. And between moving to Chicago and the next 6 years, this was pretty much the only guitar I ever played. I played it all the time, and I did all my gigs and all of my recording with this guitar alone. And over the years, I've come to realize that it's not quite the guitar that I've adapted to need, really, because it has a set of problems and a set of limitations as well. For example, being an original, it has all original electronics, which are very old and noisy. So, instinctively, this guitar, whether plugged into an amp or right into a DAW, it just naturally has a lot of hiss and a lot of hum, a lot of electrical noise. You can pretty much ground the noise by holding the toggle switch here. So sometimes when I just need the guitar to be quiet, I would just hold this. This guitar, I honestly would play a lot more with the Bigsby, but it throws the guitar wildly out of tune every time I use it, so it's not even worth using at all. And it's not even worth getting rid of because it's part of the original hardware. So if I was to remove the Bixby, it would lose its original value. These pickups here are 6-way. So this toggle switch has 6 different formations that you can use to use each of these individually, and then each of these paired. So it has a wide range of tones, which I really like, because I don't like being limited by like one switch between 2 pickups. This guitar also takes a long time to restring because of the Bixby as well. And I feel like it's more likely to break strings too, not only because of the Bixby, but this nut is also just a little bit like old and rusty and not very kind on the strings. But you can get some great tone out of this. And I just generally like the feel of it. I feel like I definitely lean more towards heavier guitars than lighter guitars, and guitars that feel a little bit more natural rather than kind of like made for the sake of design. Believe it or not, the entire body of this guitar is like basically alters the tone from everything from this cutout here makes a difference. The bottom of the guitar being larger than the top of the head, top of the body here makes a difference, you know. I'd go as far as to say that even the color of a guitar pick that you use on the guitar makes a difference in tone. But it's not something that everyone can really perceive or hear. This guitar was acquired from eBay for $3,400, but some guitars like these could go for as pricey as $5,000 for an original 1983 certifiably vintage. Just the look of this guitar is great. I've had a lot of friends and even a couple teachers from college make me offers wanting to purchase this guitar or trade their guitars for this one. I had one friend who wanted me to wanted it so bad he offered me 2 guitars for this guitar, but I declined. Although someday, if I'm in a deep financial rut, I might just part ways with this guitar just so I can keep on living. Hopefully I never get involved with the mob, make any bad deals, and have to get this guitar to a loan shark, but it might get me out of a bunch like that too if it comes to it. Alright. This next one is an LTD M-17 7-string. It's got the ESP pickups here. Definitely a guitar intended for distortion and heavy riffing. A lot of low-end focus, obviously, with the low B string. I acquired this guitar in a time where I was interested in playing some more proggy and more gent-style guitar riffing, but my interests in that have since depleted in the years to come. I've had it for maybe 5 years. It was a birthday present from my dad. A came at a time where I was making a lot of videos on Instagrams of music playthroughs, playing songs on guitar, and the first one that I did with this guitar was a Dream Theater song that was pretty intense and probably was the video that I took the most takes trying to get, but I got it. And this guitar maybe got a little bit of playtime out of it since I moved into my new place, but not really. I haven't used it for much recording or shows. A lot of these guitars, I'm actually planning on selling here pretty soon, because I just don't play them often enough to warrant needing them over not having enough money to get by. But if it ever comes to a time where I need to get a 7-string, I'll just buy a new one. The guitar doesn't sound too great, but it does sound loud and full and has good dynamics. But it sounds a little bit cheap. I don't think LTD is known for making things as state-of-the-art as Gibson or Fender. It's also a 24-fret. I actually do really like 24-fret guitars and basses, but there's not a whole lot of, I guess, addition to adding 2 frets to a regular guitar. Again, with the toggle switch down here, stuff up here, and it also has the tuning pegs on the opposite side to most of my guitars, to the common Fender, which has them on the side towards you, which is more convenient. At least for me it is. Got a nice heavy B string here. Most of my guitars are black. I just like black and very simple designs. Alright, let's get on to some other ones. I have a couple acoustics, and then I'll show you one other kind of cool guitar. I'm gonna add some extra cushioning for the acoustic guitar here. Alrighty. This guitar, in a way, was like my first guitar. This actually, a long time ago, before I started playing, my sister wanted to learn how to play guitar. I think she had a boyfriend at the time who played, and she wanted to be cool like him. But little did she know that I used to sneak into her room and take the guitar and noodle with it and see if I could learn to play it. I remember looking at YouTube tutorials of how to play like Metallica songs and System of a Down and AC/DC and stuff like that. And I'd see if I could apply that knowledge onto her guitar. And I learned a couple riffs, but I really didn't know much about tunings and formalities of how songs are built on guitar. I have to kind of hold down the strings here just to keep the guitar from resonating. You can hear a little bit there. Right now, this guitar actually has electric guitar strings even though it's not an electric acoustic, but it's a Fender, and it just sounds really beat up, like it's seen better days, kind of a old sound, not necessarily a cheap sound, but a little underdeveloped. I play it so little that there's dust on it, if you can see. I really don't play acoustic guitar much at all. I just, it's not a sound that I often look for, and I don't really do solo guitar stuff. Although I've had an interest in doing a lo-fi solo acoustic record, if I was to find an acoustic guitar that fit the sound real well, which I'm sure wouldn't be too hard, but maybe more ideal in a time where I have more money to spend on stuff like that. I had another guitar that looked just like this, but I had it cut out. It was an Alvarez, and it was an electric acoustic. And that was technically my acoustic guitar, but my sister's was also kind of like my acoustic guitar because she never played it. But eventually, I took the Alvarez on a trip to Africa when me and my family did this mission trip in Tanzania. And I brought the guitar, and I ended up leaving it there so the people who lived at the village we were volunteering at could keep it as a memento and maybe learn a thing or two from it, because some of them, understood how guitar works, and I could always get another one, but I still have this one at home. I used to take this guitar to the local farmer's market in my hometown and gig and play songs for chump change. I'd play stuff like REM and Oasis and Sublime, stuff people would know. Alright, let's check out another acoustic guitar I have here. Play the acoustic much anymore, but this one I almost never play, and I've actually been trying to sell for a little while, even though it has a cool, unique sound and a unique look to it. This is a 12-string Ovation guitar, and it's an electric acoustic with 12 strings, and right now it has a lot of dust on it because it's just been sitting in its case for a long, long time now. It's very out of tune. Not too bad, but too out of tune to play. But I love the sound of the octave strings. It's very jangly and models a lot of the sounds of guitars that I like. A lot of guitarists like Johnny Marr and Peter Buck use 12-string guitars. Because it's an Ovation, it has a round bottom to it. That's curvature definitely sculpts the sound to fit the 12 strings. But it also sounds a little bit plasticky, because that's what this material's made of. And it's even the headstock looks kind of funny. It's almost like a hammerhead shark. It's almost like playing a lute. It's a little awkward to hold on your body, and it's honestly a little awkward to play in general. Not just because of the 12 strings, but just like having adequate finger tension and finger pressure on the fretboard It's kind of big, and having to hold down the strings is twice as laboring and makes it more of an endurance test to play. As you can see, one of the strings is missing the octave of the G string, which is only 7 millimeters thick, so obviously it would be the most likely to break of any of the strings, and of course it did. But I have good memories of bringing this guitar to Berklee College of Music. When I was in high school, I took their summer courses just at Berklee 5-week sessions, and being in the practice rooms and hanging with friends and doing open mics with this guitar. I had a Boss RC30 loop station, and a lot of those presets I'd come to find were recorded with this guitar, just in the practice rooms over and over again. I like the design of the acoustical hole here. Very retro-esque. It's very shiny, but almost none of it's real wood. The neck is wood. The headstock is wood, but the whole body is kind of plasticky. I feel electric acoustics never sound as good as I hope they would. They sound very thin and artificial whenever I plug them in. You can definitely perceive guitar's acoustical qualities, tonal qualities by playing the body like a drum, you know? Alright, I have one more guitar to show you, and I'm gonna kind of lay this out. It's gonna take up a lot of space on it because it's a pretty big guitar. You'll see what I mean. This guitar I got as a Christmas present when I was in high school, and it's been in my parents' house for a long time because I never really had much use for it, but now I got it here with me. Yep, this is gonna be kind of awkward to position properly here. I'm gonna position it on the stand. This bad boy right here is a double-necked Dean signature Dave Mustaine guitar. This is the exact model that he plays on stage. Not for every song, obviously, but for moments where he needs both a 6-string and a 12-string guitar in the same song. But this is definitely a guitar to be reckoned with. It's just a real package deal here. Because not only does it have 2 necks, but it is also 150 pounds. Not literally, but that's what it feels like because it is a big, heavy guitar. And the case for this guitar is even bigger and heavier. It looks really cool. It actually sounds pretty good too. But it really doesn't have much real world application. It's not really worth recording with, and performing with it is really just for show. But I definitely took this to many places to show it off when I had it. I even took it to Boston, to Berklee with me. But didn't really play it much, just had it to show to people. And getting it to and from the airport was also a big pain in the butt. As you can see, it's pretty dusty here too. Hasn't gotten much use out of it in a good while. As you can see, the not one but two strings are missing on the 12-string side, the high E octave and the G octave. And it's interesting that you have both tuning pegs on this side and tuning pegs on this side with respective string holes on both sides too. But it looks great, flying V style, and you can toggle this so that both sides can be on at the same time, or one can be off and the other's on. It's even cool to get two guys on this guitar, one to play the top neck, one to play the bottom neck. I remember when I got this in high school, I was invited to a New Year's Eve party, and I brought this guitar because the guy who lived at the house of the party was also a musician, so we had some music going on. And these, just like having this there and playing a lot of weird songs and just showing off this neat guitar is a core memory of mine. But I never used this guitar for any show ever. I'm never too crazy about Dean guitars, but I do like a lot of players who do use Dean guitars, like Dimebag Darrell. I always thought the Flying V also looked really cool, but wasn't very ideal to play, not very comfortable. But it does, V shape does have a unique sound to it. And because this has such a massive body, it has a very deep, kind of low-endy tone to it, which is not something that I use a whole lot, so. But yeah, that is my guitar collection as of now. And this one and the 12-string Ovation are the two guitars I definitely play the least of. And both of them I potentially plan to sell. But I wanted to make this video just a proof that I had guitar and just have some good material for content. So, if you are interested in this guitar, feel free to DM me on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, or wherever you can reach me, because it's probably might go for cheaper than you think. Despite being a double neck, these actually are worth like a ridiculous amount of money. So most of my guitars I plan to sell, but are on the cheaper side. I don't plan to sell the Les Paul, but I would sell both acoustics and the 7-string. So, nonetheless, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about my guitars.